What's up, everyone? Welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. So an article just recently surfaced, and this is an article from The Hollywood Reporter, and they talked about David Zaslav's strategy basically to shift in a direction where Warner's IPs are going to be licensed outside. Now, this strategy is really interesting because I've always thought to myself that there's a wealth of all kinds of talent out there that can really leverage the plethora of what Warner has in its, in its gallery or whatever it is. Now, this article talks a little bit about, the events that are probably we're going to be seeing. We're going to look at how Warner Brothers Discovery is going to basically be going for these deals and who they're going to be working with. And I'm thinking this is to attract more of the top talent that's out there that did not necessarily have access to some of these IPs in the past. Now, there are some pertinent aspects of all of this in terms of the conversation. Earlier on, when I used to make my Gotham Knights content, I used to talk about how I felt. And this was just a feeling, this was not backed by much, in terms of concrete evidence, that the leadership at Warner Media at that time were just not good for the company. Not saying that the people up there were bad people. I'm just saying that I don't think they had the vision to be able to move this company forward, especially with all of the different IPs that were out there. They focused on all the wrong things when in reality, there were the right things right in front of them. And I'll give you an example. So the head of Warner Media before the merger happened was in charge of things like CNN and even all of the development studios. And can you believe it that this person sanctioned the approval of starting a subscription service for CNN called CNN Plus for $300 million US. The subscription service died in less than a week. Do you know what they could have done with $350 million? They could have invested more money in making a video game that was top tier quality that did not bring any questions to the minds of its audience members. Now, you wonder, $350 million for a game? Well, this makes me go into a segue where there's an audience member of ours, or a few of you actually, who've cited Red Dead Redemption 2. I will not stop hearing about how that game is supposed to be the game that everybody has to make their game to be like. Now, I can understand. I remember buying the game when it came out. It didn't appeal to me, honestly. I sold my PlayStation copy. But I knew that one thing about that game was quite certain. It was very well made. Now, guess what? It is actually the most expensive game to have ever been made at a cost of about $540 million. The marketing, the way the game was actually developed for 8 years, everything, you can tell that game took time. They paid some of the best talent that they could find to basically weave that game together. Now, you go back and you look at a lot of these other video games that are coming out under Warner. Many of them do not have that amount of quality. It's not like they don't need the investment. They could use it to get the games coming out in the very best quality. But instead, what we're getting is a studio that's going to basically carry Warner Media this 2022 year is a studio that's making their first original game, not because that's something that, they wanted or planned, but it's because of poor management. Warner Brothers Games Montreal was working on a Suicide Squad game, according to reports. Warner Brothers Games Montreal was working on a Damian Wayne game, according to reports. Warner Brothers Montreal was working on a Superman game, according to reports. Where did all these games go? Management possibly, and they're the only ones that can actually do stuff like that, they possibly canceled these video games. And I think they gave Warner Brothers Montreal the mandate to make a game that followed some of the trends in gaming. But I think somewhere, somehow in development, they kind of saw those trends were probably not going to resonate with audiences and decided that they were going to go a whole different direction. So with seeing this article, it puts me in a position where I wonder, are we going to be able to get outside developers that are not necessarily under the Warner Media banner start vying for some superheroes to start making games? This is going to provide a very huge opportunity to not only just see some cool games, but to overall have these development studios either improve or at least stick with what is the most critical thing for video games these days. Those of you who are probably looking forward to Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, I'm shocked that most of you are not concerned about the direction of that game. I mean, think about it. If you go back and look at Rocksteady's library, you would probably think that they would be the company that was making a game like Gotham Knights rather than making another game like Suicide Squad, whereby Suicide Squad has more of that Avengers feel to it, just from the preliminary aspects of what we've seen, unless they overhaul the game before it releases, is what it spoke to me anyways, or Sunset Overdrive, or Agents of Mayhem, or whatever it is. But you think about it and you see and say, man, it seemed like someone in Warner Media thought that it was wise to make these kinds of games, and they were designated, that is Warner Brothers Montreal and Rocksteady, they were designated games like these to go ahead and develop. Montreal's game, at least, is a full single player game where you can walk with one hero through the entire game, play it, not worry about co-op or whatever. So their premise is actually much more grounded to the former Rocksteady premise compared to what it is that Rocksteady is going to be serving now with the Suicide Squad game. And I know someone's going to tell me the Suicide Squad game is going to be unique and blah, blah, blah. Bro, it's a shooter. They took DC heroes and are trying to make the Division out of it. And for those of you who don't know, it's a Division-like premise. Do you know why? Tom Clancy's The Division in 2016 was one of the highest selling games. Everybody saw it and a lot of people tried to copy it. And I'm thinking that's possibly what Suicide Squad tried to do. Think about the development time frame, the development cycle. You'll see that there's that time where PUBG, a lot of these other games were coming out, and then somehow Rocksteady just said, let's just go back to our roots of shooting using the Suicide Squad. It's very interesting to see, and I'm hoping that as these changes are being made, and as Warner Media is starting to probably pursue other people to work with, that we'll start to see quality return, back to its core. Because you think about things like the Batgirl movie getting canceled. That's just a shameful thing. I'm sorry. And I honestly, should I say I feel bad for those, for the producers and the directors? I don't know. Maybe it's the budget they were given to work with. I don't really know much about movies. But I'm hoping that these teams can start to get the funding that they need. They get the support that they need, rather than them just being second class in terms of, what it is that they produce. Look at Rockstar. They make one game and they basically farm dollars from that game for years to come. What is the difference between them in terms of, say, finances and others, and many of these other big brand name, companies that have studios under them? It's just their focus. They understand how to make a game, provide good mechanics, and invest in a video game. Whereas a lot of these others, I don't think they really, their leadership anyways, I don't think they really didn't know what they were doing. So hopefully we'll see some improvement, but I'm not really expecting anything. I'll just sit back and watch and see how it is that they do it. But, maybe the drive to make profit and to restore a lot of the name and a lot of the reputation that was already there at one time is probably going to allow for us to start seeing some good stuff, down the road. Who knows? Maybe the Zack Snyder Justice League storyline might be what, comes back to the core of the DC cinematic, because I think that was actually one of the better aspects of things. But anyways, let me hear your thoughts in the comment section. There's so much to, talk about and go through in this, but I just wanted to leave this up to you guys for now. And hopefully we'll talk in another video. Peace out.